All right, so I'm going to show you in this one, since we started talking about arrays and we're using an int array, let's say that I wanted to tally up the total of all of these numbers that I'm getting, okay? So I could use an array to collect, and I could, depending on the type of input, I could set up a scanner and say maybe how many numbers do they want to sum up, and they could give me a number, and then I could use that to loop through the array however many times and to create some type of function to be able to sum it up. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's say that I was building this and I wanted to start tallying up the totals of something. So let's create a scanner. Scanner keyboard equals new scanner system.in. All right, import that. All right, so I have my scanner. Now I could have in my program, I could have something like I wanted to ask them how many numbers they wanted to total up as the very first thing. So system.out.println, how many numbers do you want to input? Okay. And then I could ask them, so they're going to give me that answer. So say total numbers is equal to keyboard.nextInt. All right, so we get those numbers. Now we can create, instead of doing that here, we could initialize our my numbers and say that we want new int with the total numbers that they gave us. Okay, now I could create a loop. So maybe we want to actually create a method for this. Public static. We want to return that int array, and let's call it input numbers. And as a requirement, we need to take that int array number array. Okay. So in here, we want to loop through. So for that array, we're going to do a loop. So we want to loop the total amount of times that they said for how many total numbers they are. So I'm going to do I is less than that number array that we're going to pass in dot length. So it will do all the way up, but not that last number. So if they said 5 numbers, the length of the array would be 5, but because we start at 0 as the index, it would go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we want it to I to stop before it would get to 5. So I'm going to increase up by 1. And then in here, I'm going to loop just so that I'm not repeating myself. Enter a number, and I'm going to take some type of input. So this would be a temporary variable. Temp number is equal to, and I don't have my keyboard because I also have to pass that in. So let's go ahead and pass that in. Scanner keyboard. All right, so now that I have that, I could say next int, and that would give me it. So I could store that variable. Now what would I want to do with that variable? Well, I could say that that array, number array, at position I is going to equal that temp number, and that's okay. And when I finish, then I'm going to return that number array, and I could call that. There's nothing wrong with this, except this is more than what it needs to be. I don't need to use a temp number here, a temporary variable, just to assign it back to an array. So a better way to write this would be to take this right here and put it here, and then I don't even need that line. So I am taking the input and I'm automatically assigning it to whatever that I value is, and I'm returning it. So I have this array. Now this array that I created, it's an int array, and I gave it a certain size. This variable is holding this. I can reassign this variable, this that is to hold an int array, to any other int array. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. So I could say my numbers is equal to input numbers, and then I pass that my numbers into it because that's one of the requirements. The next one would be to pass in my scanner. And now I've created a simple way to loop and not have to retype a bunch to put in that input. Now I could have another one. Let's say another method, public static. Let's say I just want to return an int, and I want to do the sum of the array. So I need an array, so I'm going to pass in that int array, and I could just call it number array, even though I know that the one that I'm creating is called my numbers. And I just want to use that to go through and total up what it is. So I could start off with, say, an int value, and let's say I call it total. Total is starting out is 0, and now I'm going to do a for loop. Int I is equal to 0, I until we get to that number array dot length, and I can go I plus plus. Now, since I know that I'm going through every one of these, and at this time, because I'm not reassigning something, I can actually use an enhanced for loop, which would probably make more sense here. So an enhanced for loop, when you know you're going to use everything in an array, or you're searching everything in an array, you say what type is each element. So in this case, everything that's stored in that number array is an int. So I can say int number. And I can say, you know what? I want to search everything that's in the number array, and I'm going to give it a temporary variable for each position of number. That number, I just want to add it to the total. And that's all I want to do. And when I'm finished with my loop, then I can return total. That's it. So let's go ahead and return that. So I could say system.out.println, the total of the array is, and I can call that sum of array, and I pass in my numbers. And let's go ahead and run this. Okay, how many numbers do I want to input? Let's say I just wanted to put 3. So that means that according to my code, I'm going to create a 3-element array. Enter number 2, 220. The total of the array is 222, and then it finishes. Okay, so using the arrays, I didn't need to know what each individual number was. I just needed to input that data so that I can use it later. That's what a data structure is. Okay, and to clean up my code, this could be even cleaned up a little bit more right here. Because I created this, I don't need to really use this temporary numbers. I could just take the input, this right here, and put that here, and I have even more simplified code. So let's run that again so you guys can see that it works. How many numbers do you want to input? Let's do 4. Enter a number. I'm going to enter 4, 40, 400, and 4,000. The total of the array is 4,444. That's it. Okay, so that's one of the ways that we can use arrays is that we can use it to be able to look at each data point. Watch the other videos and I'll show different ways that we can use arrays for us to be able to design a program for a final. All right. Have fun. Good luck.